Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey, I'm Johnny Mac. It's today's Daily Comedy News. I struggled putting together today's show. I want the show to be fun. Like I like yesterday. You know, we're just goofing on Jim Gaffigan doing a supermarket signing. That's what I want the show to be. Light and fun. And you don't come here for politics. You don't come here for heavy topics. But there are days where we got to talk about stuff. And maybe we do have to get a little political. And there are at least, there's two major political stories. There are three things that normally would be the lead story on this podcast. So there's a lot to get to. Let's begin with Stephen Colbert. He tagged on a pre-taped segment that aired before the opening credits of his program on Wednesday night. And let's let Stephen take it from here.
Good evening, everybody. After our scripts for tonight's show were finished this afternoon, we here at The Late Show learned that Charlie Kirk, a prominent right-wing activist, was killed at a speaking engagement in Utah. Our condolences go out to his family and all of his loved ones. I'm old enough to personally remember the political violence of the 1960s. And I hope it is obvious to everyone in America that political violence does not solve any of our political differences. Political violence only leads to more political violence. And I pray with all my heart that this is the aberrant action of a madman and not a sign of things to come. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the show that we had prepared for you.
I find Colbert to be really well-spoken. I've said on this podcast before, whatever your politics are, I think the Democrats should take a look at Stephen Colbert because the man can speak, and he's 20 years younger than who they usually run. I think he'd be an interesting candidate. Jimmy Kimmel went on Instagram to demand an end to the angry finger-pointing. Kimmel wrote, "Can we just for one day agree that it's horrible and monstrous to shoot another human? On behalf of my family, we send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence." On that same day, there was a high school shooting. Barely got any media coverage. So I'll do the late night recaps tomorrow. I just don't want to go right into hey, Jimmy Fallon said, I can't do that right now. On the same theme, the South Park episode making fun of Charlie Kirk has been pulled from Comedy Central at the time of this recording, which is 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, a lot later than I normally record. I believe that Charlie Kirk episode is still available on Paramount Plus per news reports. The episode premiered on August 6th. That episode shows the character Clyde Donovan launch a podcast. That character said some things I don't want to repeat. He then sets up a table at South Park Elementary to, quote, destroy woke liberal students, inviting his classmates to step forward with a microphone and prove him wrong, similar to the format of the event that Charlie Kirk was hosting on Wednesday. Cartman gets jealous of character Clyde Donovan's success. Later in that episode, Clyde is awarded the Charlie Kirk Award for Young Master Debaters. Charlie Kirk had reacted to that episode back in July, saying, honestly, my first reaction was I kind of laughed. It's kind of funny, and it goes to show the cultural impact and the resonance that our movement has been able to achieve. I took this as a badge of honor. We as conservatives need to be able to take a joke. We shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. Anyway, the episode is down. Other thing that could have been the lead today, Jerry Seinfeld made an appearance at Duke University on Tuesday. I'm going to read the quote from Jerry Seinfeld verbatim, and I'm going to read it flat. I don't want to load it. These are the words of Jerry Seinfeld. Free Palestine is to me just, you're free to say you don't like Jews. Just say you don't like Jews. By saying Free Palestine, you're not admitting to what you really think. So it's actually, compared to the Ku Klux Klan, I'm actually thinking the Klan is actually a little better here because they can come right out and say, we don't like blacks, we don't like Jews. Okay, that's honest. Those are the words of Jerry Seinfeld at Duke University on Tuesday. Again, I'm struggling with today's show. We are not going to solve gun control. We are not going to solve Palestine. I just want to make fun of Jim Gaffigan doing a supermarket signing. A spokesperson for Duke University told the Chronicle, Duke does not preview the remarks of speakers who were invited to campus, and the invitation of speakers to campus does not imply any endorsement of the remarks. I think there would be a different news cycle without the Charlie Kirk story, where Seinfeld would be quite talked about. I think this got a little bit buried. We'll see if it bubbles back up. On to more fun things. Andrew Santino has a special out on Hulu today. It is called White Noise. It is his third stand-up special, his first for Hulu. I like Andrew a lot. I also have been thinking about him. He's a good dramatic actor. I'll get into next week. I've had to just bounce a bunch of stories, but the FX show Dave, on which Santino appeared, that has apparently ended. And I forget what it was called, the one that took place in the 70s where it was like not quite the Comedy Store. Like that show, he was a comedian on that. He was really good on that. But Santino making the headlines, and usually this would be the top story. The headline, Disney had Santino change the jokes. First, he talked about the title of the special, White Noise, and said people are going to feel a little uncomfortable or confused if they're supposed to laugh, or if that's okay to say. That, to me, is the kind of point of comedy. If you string the audience along with love and they know they're in on the joke with you, they'll find nothing hateful. Apparently, White Noise has something to do with one of the chunks in the special. I didn't think twice about the title until he brought it up. The minorest of spoilers for the special. We joined the special mid-set. Santino said, I didn't want to do the traditional kill time up top thing, which I've done in the past. I probably did 10 minutes of material before what you see. I just wanted to start the special with something fun and quick and snappy, and the phrase, is it racist, is a good hook. Anyway, apparently during the special, he makes fun of Disney adults. The special's on Hulu, which is owned by Disney. Variety asked Santino, how soon after you sent in the cut of the special did you get a phone call from Disney? Santino said, immediately. They couldn't wait to trim the fat on those jokes. Candidly, we went back and forth, and they didn't really enjoy having that stuff in there. We found a happy medium, and I was able to keep the jokes in there, but the jokes were manipulated. I'm not going to lie. They definitely changed the jokes. I was not stoked about that. We got into a little bit of a war. They didn't want those jokes in there. My argument was I joke about a lot of other stuff in the special that's controversial. I don't think joking about people who like Disney as grown-ups is a controversial take, but they disagreed. Variety said, you're saying the joke was harsher before? Santino, yeah, it was funnier. It peeled open a little bit more than what you saw on people going to Disney without kids and adults who wear Disney clothing. Okay, let's take a major time out here. Andrew Santino is telling you that for a paycheck, he changed his material. I'm not making a judgment. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just pointing out to you as you listen, Andrew Santino is telling us because of the paycheck, he changed his material. Quoting Santino, but Disney's a massive corporate conglomerate, and they were like, if you want it on here, this is how we want it. Otherwise, we won't be able to air the special. We have to cut the jokes. So we found a medium. We said we'd find a way to manipulate the jokes in a way that works for everybody. Disney got kind of what they wanted, and I tried to get the best of what I wanted. This is the compromise in the modern world of media. Andrew Santino. Wow. Quoting Santino more from Variety. Typically, we get free reign. I told you normally this would be the top story, right? This is the first time I've experienced this in making specials where they were afraid of the narrative I was putting out because it was a reflection on their company. I reminded them multiple times that it was comedy and I was kidding and it's not real, and that's the point of comedy. You're not mocking reality, but they weren't interested in it. So again, we found a happy medium, but most of the time, comedians are unfiltered. Most of the time. That's why we love the podcast world and why we've kind of gotten away from traditional forms of media. We got sick of being told you're not supposed to say that. Quite frankly, it's BS because that's not how people think and talk in the real world. Nobody cares. People speak their mind all the time, and they love when comics are able to say things people don't talk about much because they're afraid to. That's our job, to bring up the uncomfortable and talk about the topics we wince at. That's the best part of the business. We get to live in podcast land and live stand-up, which will never be filtered. So this was a challenge for me, but I made it work. I still love the special, and I hope people enjoy it, regardless of the tussling in my mind. There's a lot more Santino press out there. I will get to it. So many stories coming in today, and we've got the Emmys and Nate Bargatze hosting it, and Spinal Tap's out today. There's a Letterman interview in Vulture that I just don't even have time to read. So I'm moving stuff like well into next week. So don't think the weekend is mailed in. The weekend episodes are going to be really robust, and then Monday we'll have the Emmys recap. So it's just a lot going on right now, including out today. Larry the Cable Guy's special on Amazon. Now, I had sent his manager, who's my friend, on the side, hey, congratulations on this. And she wrote back, Larry should do your show. I've been so busy covering comedy news and doing other stuff at the podcast company, I didn't even have a second to follow up on that. And if you've listened to me over the years, you know Larry and I are friends. Anyway, Larry the Cable Guy, his special, It's a Gift, is out on Amazon Prime Video today in the hour-long special, filmed in Clearwater, Florida. Cable Guy delivers takes on everything from family life and aging to the everyday absurdities of modern living. I just mentioned Vulture has that interview with David Letterman. Letterman has expanded his content on his Fast channel, Letterman TV, which you'll find on Samsung TV Plus. They now have the licensing rights to the entire 1,819-episode run of Late Night with David Letterman, The Good Show. Yes, I said it, Mike Chisholm from the Letterman podcast. What are you going to do? Come down from Canada and fight me? You guys should listen to the Letterman podcast. I sent Mike the Vulture interview as soon as I saw it. I haven't even read it yet. I'm like, you might want to read this. So hopefully on the Letterman podcast today, he's talking about it. Or maybe he's on his way to come to New Jersey and beat me up because of my mean comments about Late Show with David Letterman. But late night, we know. Mike, you know. Mike, you know. Late night was where it's at. 12:30. Yeah. Anyway. Letterman TV launched last year with highlights culled from 4,000 hours of content from the CBS era. Whatever. But now, 1,800 episodes of Late Night with David Letterman. Just mainline it into my veins. That is my jam. I'll probably at some point put that on and then sit there for 36 hours in between football games because I got to watch football. That guy, Scott, he got me into the football pool. I was texting with him earlier today. I'm like, I got to make sure my picks are good this week. I am not letting you take 56th place in this thing. He can sit there in 59th and look at my brake lights as he tries to catch me. I might not win, but I'm not letting Scott pass me. I digress. Letterman said, all the fun of NBC and me 40 years ago. Are you kidding? The golden age of television. And thanks to my old friends, Koff at NBC, joining my new Samsung TV Plus friends. Very, very cool. All right, out today, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. The new film has cameos from folks like Sir Elton John and Sir Paul McCartney. I saw a funny story where the Spinal Taps were trying to hit up King Charles for a potential knighthood. That made for a nice crossover story with our show Palace Intrigue, where we talk about the royal family. Prince Harry was in town this week. Very busy week at Palace Intrigue. That's another reason I didn't get back to Cable Guy Manager. Jimmy Kimmel asked the Spinal Taps, have you been knighted? David St. Hubbins said no. Nigel Tufnell added, not as, and then trailed off with a no. Kimmel asked if they would want to be knighted. Derek Smalls said, from your mouth to King Charles' ears. The New York Times has seen Spinal Tap 2. No spoilers here, but their general vibe in their review is that they dig it. The Times wrote, it's almost always pleasant to hang out with old friends, particularly when no one overstays their welcome. The good news about Spinal Tap 2 is that everyone involved seems to have understood the assignment, which makes for a genial 83 minutes of soft jokes and jowls. There's nothing here that will make you gasp in convulsive laughter, despite some promising new material. Even so, nostalgia is a powerful drug. Rated R, 1 hour, 23 minutes in theaters. I like the Spinal Taps, but I can probably wait the X weeks till it shows up on streaming, and then I'll check it out then. The Spinal Taps did a lot of press in character. USA Today caught up with them and asked, what is it about groupies at your age? Nigel Tufnell said, they're out there. We call them the grands. They want you to put in their hearing aids. David St. Hubbins said, I've noticed when a woman gets older, a lot of her tattoos suddenly appear to be in italics. David was asked about getting a visit in the studio by Paul McCartney. McCartney offered some advice on the song. David St. Hubbins didn't say pleased. David said, you could say that. Listen, I have a lot of respect for Paul McCartney. He struggled to make his way with a very specific talent, a certain amount of chops, as we say, and he's got a decent voice, and he's a fine songwriter, and despite all that, he's managed to be successful. That's all I'll say.
Comedy stock market.
So, same note from the beginning of the show. I want this podcast to be fun, and I'm not feeling the fun today. It's very angsty with the news stories, but we have to do comedy stock market since it's Friday. I don't have a lot of picks for you. Maybe here on the fly, should we buy some Andrew Santino, even though he took a check and pulled his punch? But he's very charismatic and he's very funny. I haven't seen the special yet, but let's buy some Andrew Santino. A lot of press going around about him. My big recommendation for the week is we're going to hold our Nate Bargatze stock because he's hosting the Emmys, and a lot of Americans will be like, hey, I really like that guy, but I'm telling you now, 1 week from today, we are going to sell our Nate stock because we're here to make money, and we're going to sell high on Nate Bargatze. But for right now, hold. We are going to sell our Jim Gaffigan stock because despite me preaching about it, Jim is insistent on letting all the coolness suck out of him. Not that he was like the Fonz to begin with, but dude, supermarket bottle signing, that is just not cool. Not in a like jerky way, but like it's the opposite of cool. It's lame, as we say in the streets. So let's buy some Andrew Santino. We'll hold our Nate Bargatze, and we'll sell our Jim Gaffigan, and that's your comedy stock market for this week. The Last Laugh podcast caught up with Rainn Wilson. You know him. He was Dwight on The Office. You know that guy? Yeah. And I don't know, people are being so revisionist about The Office. Last laugh is like there's been some conversation over the past couple of years whether The Office could be released in the same way today with the same kinds of jokes. Johnny Mac will say, calm down, everybody. It's The Office. Really? It's not Dice Clay. It's The Office. Rainn Wilson may not agree with Johnny Mac. Rainn said, listen, you know the Benihana Christmas episode where Michael and Andy draw a Sharpie on one of the Asian women they brought back to the Christmas party? It's jaw-droppingly kind of horrific. It is? All right. Guess I just canceled myself. And it's a tricky conversation, you know? They're clueless, and in their cluelessness, they're racist and insensitive, and they're always saying the wrong thing. That's what the show is, Rainn said. And that's Michael, Dwight, and Andy, and Kevin, for that matter. So it's a show based around clueless, insensitive, racist, sexist people that kind of mirrors the United States in a lot of ways. So you want to encourage it because it's funny as hell. You got to stop there. But it also skewers a particular American sensibility, but it definitely goes pretty far if you dig deep. So, you know, could it happen today? I think it would have to be very, very different if it were made in this environment. Like, for example, The Paper, which so far isn't funny at all. You want to make that? Go ahead. Rainn talked about after Steve Carell left. Did Rainn ever consider leaving? And this is a smart answer. Rainn Wilson said, Steve and I were in very, very different career situations when he left The Office. He was going to star in movies that he was getting paid tens of millions of dollars for, and the movies I had tried had bombed, and I didn't really have a way forward in the film world. Time out. Isn't this story, supposedly, that NBC never asked Steve Carell if he was staying? They just assumed he was leaving, so then they let him leave? That's the version Steve Carell's been selling the last few years. Is that not accurate? Rainn said, so I was absolutely 100% going to stay in The Office as long as I could. That's Johnny Mac's number one advice. If you get a hit show, stay with it. Dennis Franz, NYPD Blue, smart guy. Kelsey Grammer, Cheers. Hey, you want to do Frasier? Yeah, I do. 20 years later, you want to do more Frasier? Yeah, I do. Rainn said there was an opportunity for Dwight to get to do more with Michael gone, and I got to do more. I didn't immediately run The Office, but there were different colors you saw from Dwight in those last couple seasons. That is true. We made a few episodes that were pretty mediocre, I would say. I don't know we made any stinkers, but there were also some really damn funny episodes in the last couple seasons. And then he talked about the backdoor pilot for The Farm, which was a stinker. So, Rainn, you're wrong there. Rainn Wilson said, yeah, we kept talking about Frasier and Cheers, and one could argue that Frasier's a better show than Cheers. Kelsey Grammer kind of took a minor character on Cheers and made him a really memorable comedic lead. But it was a big relief of like, oh, good, I'm not going to do many more seasons of Dwight, and especially because NBC at that time had a new regime that came in, and they wanted to do big, bright, flashy, splashy shows that were multicams and go back to the Friends kind of thing, and they weren't interested in Office spin-offs at that time. Had they taken The Farm, they probably would have another $1 billion in the bank. Even now, all the people that have seen The Office 20 times, they're going to watch The Farm at least once or twice. Would have been as good as The Office? No way, not even close. Would have been good, would have been solid, would have been a good, solid comedy? Yeah, it would have. And it would have done some really cool stuff. And I think they really, really missed out. But the history of The Office and NBC is they never really got the show. And that is your comedy news for today. Again, real episodes tomorrow. I've got most of the script written, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. Sunday, we've got Emmy stuff to talk about. Monday will be Emmys, so don't blow off the weekend shows. You have a good rest of your day wherever you are, and I'll try and make tomorrow more fun. See you then.